This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson On Demand.
We'll get the latest on what's going on with the U.S. being downgraded, our credit rating, that is. And I'm going to share with you a letter from a bank that was sent to somebody advertising the great deals they have on mortgages. And it seems to me, based on the letter that was just recently spent, they haven't made a whole lot of changes in the mortgage industry to stop those dangerous practices of people buying houses they can't afford or over-leveraging themselves. It seems like they're encouraging it, and they're encouraging it with the backing of the United States government. Doesn't seem like any lessons have been learned. We'll do that at 9:35. But first, we're going to run down the list of all kinds of levies that have been decided on in the last week or so. A couple of them decided on last night, including Northwest Local, Cincinnati Public Schools, and Lakota. How are you, Rich Hoffman?
I feel enlightened.
You feel enlightened because of last night's meeting?
Yeah, based on the meeting last night.
It was a long meeting, the way I understand it, and they decided on a levy.
Yeah, we knew they would. The reason I feel enlightened is because, I was told by a few of the people who kind of run things up there that took the opportunity to talk to me a little bit, that I am considered the devil of public education. So I have now come to you from the bowels of hell to report the contents of that meeting.
If you are the devil of public education, I guess I'm some sort of minion, some sort of demon or something like that, because they don't like what I have to say, which is really crazy because I think teachers should get paid a lot based on their merit. You know, I want you to make a lot of money. Yeah.
I said that in the meeting last night. I said, listen, I'm not against teachers making $70,000, $80,000 a year. You with all your credentials, you have your doctorate degree, your master's degree. That's not the problem. The problem is you have over 600 employees who make over $55,000 a year, and that's why your budget is breaking. You can't afford to bring everybody up like that.
And that there are a lot of teachers that should not be teaching, number one, because they are ineffective. Some of them are bad. They're not even good with the kids alone, let alone, being effective actually teaching. Exactly. And they're making a ton of money and have been there for years. I mean, those are the types of things I want to target.
Right. You have a large percentage. I mean, it's like every employee workforce.
Sure.
In management, you have your 10-80-10 rule where your top 10 get the best money, your 80% get the medium level, and the bottom 10% get virtually nothing because those are your bottom feeders. But you don't have that in these government sector jobs. You don't have any sort of analysis to figure out who's good, who's what. Everybody just gets something based on a step, on a schedule. And that's what's killing these budgets. That's why all these schools are going on about this fall. 50% of all the schools in southern Ohio are going to be doing this. And that should tell everybody something.
So what was the levy that was decided on last night for Lakota?
The 4.75, and I pointed that out in the meeting. I said, look, I know you guys you're working hard to balance your budget and bring costs down, and you're pulling the crust off the bread, basically. But it's the bread that's the problem, not the crust. But you managed to bring your costs down so you can go after a smaller levy, which is you consider to be less impactful to the community, which is all good. That's all very nice and wonderful. But what's the long-term plan? What are you going to do down the road? What are you going to do in 2015 and 2016 and 2000? Because I'll probably still be in the district. You have no long-term plan to keep these costs brought down in some reasonable amount. And
now
they're off salaries.
The union did agree in Lakota to a 2-year pay freeze. Is that right?
That's right. A three-year deal.
3-year, okay.
A 3-year deal where they gave up some their step increases, which helped us bring the budget down. Which, and again, that's another contributor to the lower levy amount. But you and I know what that's all about. I mean, that's so they can get through this whole SB5 thing, get it overturned, get rid of it, and then get back to the business as usual. That's what they're doing there.
Right, and that's still, number one, not a long-term plan. Number two, Rich, that's like closing the barn door after the horse got out, because as I'm looking at the numbers, take Cherokee Elementary School, for example. Yeah, just 3 years ago, 3 going on 4 years ago now, the school year teacher salary on average was just under $60,000. It was $59,600 a year, $59,600 a year.
Yes.
In the next school year, they went a 17% increase. Yep. 17.1% increase to $63,000 a year.
You know what happened? The difference there? There was a strike attempt in 2008 where the LEA, the teachers union, said there's a little bit of history here. We had just passed a levy in 2005. Money kicked in 2006. So in 2008, the union came after the district for more money. And they went down to the wire, threatened to walk off the job. The school board made a deal in the last moments. And after that, the cost of labor at Lakota went up 10.1% over the next 2 years. And that's what you're seeing. That big jump there is the result of that settlement that had to be established to keep them from walking off the job.
See, what's crazy about this, I understand, people getting raises at times. 17% is huge, but remember, that 17% was at a time when the economy was starting to tank, when many of us had not seen, well, first of all, in the private sector, we don't see regular raises anyways, but in the private sector, those that did have any type of regular raises were not getting 17%. They were lucky to eke out, 2%.
2-3%.
That would be huge.
Yeah. And 2 or 3% on an income that's $60,000 a year is an extraordinary amount of money.
And across the board on many teachers, it wasn't just one teacher. So although,
everybody.
Yeah, you went up, let's see, $54,000 to $63,000. $54,000 a year to $63,000. I was wrong about that. I said $59,000 originally. It was $54,000 up to $63,300.
Yeah.
But that's many teachers. It's not just one $9,000 jump. It was many.
Well, yeah, it's everybody at that particular school. And when if you did that for just a few of them, of course you can afford it. If you do that for your exceptional teachers that have all these accommodations and get presidential awards and have doctorate degrees, and they really, you can see clearly that they're huge contributors to kids' lives, sure, throw money at them. But you don't do that for everybody.
Not all the teachers. You do it on merit. You say, listen, you're the one who's achieving. Put them in competition with each other. Competition is good. And say, now you're the best. You're going to go ahead and earn the money. But it wasn't just that. Lakota East went from, in the school year 2007 to 2008, they saw a 7% jump to 2008 to 2009, then a 3% jump the following year. Lakota Plains went from 5.6% to a 6% jump the next year. You've got Lakota Ridge Junior High. You went a 1.7% increase to a 9.1% the next year. I mean, they're seeing if you see the modest increase one year, like 2-3% like everybody else, the following year it was like, 10%.
Exactly. And that's where I drew the line as a resident. I said, look, I was worried that they couldn't afford to maintain those wages before that strike, because you're getting to a level where it might be difficult for the community to support it. I mean, you're getting to the danger zone when your average salary is, $56,000 at the time. After that strike, and they jumped up to $59,000 and $62,000, and if you go along that way, if you don't come and step up and stop them, you're going to bankrupt your community, because the LEA, the union for Lakota, I mean, and this speaks for every single district, because you can read about strike attempts 2 or 3 times a year for any school in the city. It seems like it comes up a few times a year where this kind of tactic is used, and it just drives up the cost.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And, in defense of the teachers, Rich, I do want to say something. If teachers are out there and you're driving around now and you're saying, Doc, that's not the whole story, you're absolutely right. There are a lot of things that you have to consider, and one of the big things, and teachers get a bum rap for this, is the administration, the administrators there that make huge salaries, and there are too many administrators quite often.
Yep.
Those administrators then make the decision to build these cathedrals that people teach in, these resorts and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, you drive by Mason, oh my God, the first time I drove by there, I almost drove off the road. So what the hell's with the waterfall and stuff?
Yeah, it looks like a resort from Orlando, outside Disney World.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here's an example. Wyoming City Schools, they hired a new superintendent. They approved a 3-year, $145,000 a year contract. Now, $145,000 a year isn't, CEO money or anything like that. But it is still a huge amount of money when you compare it to the average wage of the people who live in Wyoming. When you compare it to what everybody else makes, it's 3 times. It's more than 3 times the average wage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in most cases, you're talking 20 to 30%. A lot of these public jobs and schools are definitely considered in that category that are above in wages the people who pay the taxes as a general average. I mean, in Westchester, the median income for a household is like $97,000, and if most of those homes are dual parents, two people contributing to the income, that comes out to just under $50,000 a year. That the average person in the affluent,
right? Yeah, in the affluent area.
Yeah.
So
that's no way above.
When you get to $145,000, Rich, you're talking. I mean, you're on par with what the governor makes. Listen,
sure.
If you are that educated, a lot of these superintendents and that will have their master's degree. A lot of them will have PhDs, and that's fine. That was your choice. If you don't want to work in the public sector, don't do it. But I would say 6 figures a year in the more affluent districts where they can afford a little bit more is plenty.
Right.
The less affluent, I would say $80,000 a year is probably good, unless you can prove to me your worth based on your merit, that somehow it is worth $145,000 a year. But, Rich, I don't see them saying, yes, I'm worth $145,000 because I managed to cut, costs by $4 million or something. I don't see that. It's just the opposite. They just try to raise the prices.
Well, I think they're playing this game, and this game comes the organized labor movement behind all this. Is that they think that if you really believe
Doc Thompson
at
700 WLW, lots of different levies in the area. West Claremont,
one of the things I said
Board of
last
Education,
night,
they unanimously voted
to
put an operating levy on the ballot.
You should present
it's going to be 7.9 mil.
This is what these are the wage levels we want to maintain. Do you think
per cost of $100,000 home value, $242 annually?
If you don't think that we should,
you want a home that's valued at $100,000, it'll cost you $242 annually. That's in addition to everything else you're already paying. Imagine being out an additional $242, or God forbid you actually own a $200,000 home.
And
I think that has really caused future injury. Talk. The idea that you're going to go ahead and market your raise in your salary every year by saying it's for the children, because some of us get so sick of hearing that when we know the truth. Now you have ruined coming and going. You've ruined your money, pay income tax and whatnot on it. Right, where you can't come to us and say,
then you have to take the money that you've already paid tax on.
We haven't had a raise in so many years. The teachers, they do a good job.
So here's the $240, $42
college. All of
annually
these
on
factors that go into whether or not they're doing a good job.
$500 on a
and
$200,000
lay out a solid
home
argument. I'm not unreasonable.
After you've already
I'm certainly
paid
somebody
taxes
who would say,
on it. So how much do you have to
they
earn
probably need that. That's probably the right thing to do.
to pay
Not
that?
anymore. When you put the levy on the ballot like Little Miami, and I know they're in trouble, but 9 times in a row when people keep telling you no,
nope,
come on.
Northwest local district.
Look, Mount Health,
not as big a levy. 5.07 mil. It's a combination levy on the ballot, 3.5 mils of permanent operating funds, and they're going to add with it a 1.4 mil bond levy. That would raise about $5.78 million in operating funds.
Guess what? We're not doing it. And I've thrown out
$44 million to renovate Coleraine and Northwest High School.
But I've laid out some solid directions that we could go in.
Home for
and you know what? If
Northwest
we all
local,
got together as a community, as a state, as a region, as a country, and said we need a plan for the next 50, 100 years in education, and come up with, use all those resources, technology, and that we can find a way, I'm sure, to increase the quality of learning, those graduate, those that go to college, the quality of life, and dramatically cut expenses. I've laid out some things.
Owner of a $100,000 home, $243 a year. So that's a pretty hefty one, and that wouldn't come up for renewal for 10 years. So you're saddling yourself with one that's going to be around for at least 10 years.
And the county commissioners in Hamilton County, they laid out their millage for different things like the indigent care levy. I'm going to run down what they did yesterday. I had Chris Monzell on yesterday. I'll run it down, find out what they ended up doing right after the news. 700 WLW.
All this concession has to come from them, and they're going to have to look at it realistically and say, look, we've negotiated well for our members, but at a certain point, we have a diminishing return, and we have to get in reality.
So can I assume that the No Lakota Levy group will be fired up this fall?
Fired up in a big way, especially when you get lied to like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key to it. All right, Rich Hoffman, keep me posted, okay?
All right.
Thanks, buddy. And I have a link to Rich's stuff on my blog at 700WLW.com. I'm pretty sure it's up right now. If it's not, it will be soon for the No Lakota Levy people. You can go there and read. He lays out all the numbers. See, that's the thing that's so good about Rich when he talks about Lakota, is all the numbers are laid out there. It's not attacking teachers. It's wanting what we all want. The quality of education for our children that we pay for. We want the biggest bang for our buck. Certainly, we want those people to be treated well and respected, those people that teach the kids, the administrators that work there. But we recognize the fat that has been there for so many years. And you can't drop back to the levels of just a year or so ago that were inflated as it was. Because they were inflated. We need to move forward. We need new plans and new ideas. And it's not brick and mortar schools with a boatload of teachers that are protected by the union even when they're not doing their job. The plan should be base it on merit. If you're doing well, you get promoted, you make money, and you stay in the system. If you don't, you go find a job doing something else, because not all of us are cut out to be teachers. Not all of us are cut out to be astronauts or burger flippers or talk hosts or anything else. By the way, I got an email from somebody who said, but you can't base teacher merit solely on test scores. There are other factors that affect the scores. I've never suggested we should base it solely on test scores. Just the opposite. Now, that's one of the factors. Test scores, graduation rates, quality of life, all of these things. Costs, that's something else. Are you keeping costs down? We got to balance all those. But the final decision, when it comes to the teachers or any other government worker, the final decision is your supervisor. That's who's supposed to decide. The administrator there, just like here or any other job. The final decision, even if you have a contract, whether or not you're doing a good job, is based on the people who hire you. Why can't they be judged by the administrators and saying, you have accomplished these things, here are the goals we're setting out, you've done a good job, we're going to pay you. Tell you about the other local levies, not just school levies, but the other ones. We had some movement in Hamilton County on the levies there. Cincinnati Public Schools, do them all next. 700 WL.